Welcome to Brewski Tech. So in the last video, we took our fermenter and we got it set up in Home Assistant so that you have this nice dashboard element where you can control the temperature that your fermenter is at. But in this video, we're going to take it a couple of steps further. So we're going to actually automate and set up some notifications and additional rules that really kind of harness the power of Home Assistant. Now, if you haven't got your fermenter set up in Home Assistant yet, refer to our previous video on how to do that. I'm going to be assuming for this video that you're already there, that everything's working and you can control the temperature. First, we want to go to the Settings tab. So that's in the lower left corner. There should be a Settings entry. Click on that. And then we want to go to Automations and Scenes. So here I already have a couple of rules set up, but we're going to create some new ones that mirror these. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to create a rule that will try to notify you when the ice bottles that keep the air cold in your fermenter, when those have melted. So basically when you need to replace those ice bottles. So let's do that one first. In the lower right corner, click the Create Automation button. And we're going to choose Create New Automation. And that'll pop up this dialog here. So all the rules or automations in Home Assistant are kind of set up like this. So you specify a condition or trigger, and then you can add additional conditions on top of that optionally. And then you set up an action to take place when those conditions are met. So in our case, the way we're going to do this is we're going to check to see if the fan in our thermostat or our fermenter, has been on for a certain number of minutes. And if it has, that means that probably the ice bottles are not really producing cold air anymore, meaning they've melted. And then the action we'll take when that condition occurs is that we will send a notification to the Home Assistant app on your phone. So the first thing we're going to do is set our trigger. And we're going to choose a device here. And the device, you can scroll down in the list, but we're just going to start typing, and we want the Fermenter 1. So that's the name of our device. If you gave it a different name when you were creating your ESP home device, then search for that here. I'm going to select that, Fermenter 1, and then there's a whole bunch of triggers that are available. So we want one that says Fermenter fan power turned on. This one says turned on or off. That's not what we want. Here we go. Fermenter fan power turned on. Okay. And then we also want to set a duration. So we don't care if the fan power is turned on. We care if it's been on for a certain amount of time. So let's set this to 20 minutes. So this is hours, minutes, seconds. So we're going to set this to 20 minutes. And basically, if our ice bottles are not capable of cooling the fermenter down within 20 minutes, then that probably means they're melted. Okay, so that's the trigger condition. We don't need any additional conditions, but we do want to add an action to this. So let's click on the Add Action button. And then let's see, I'm going to scroll down here to notifications because we do want to send a notification. And I already have the Home Assistant app installed on my phone. So this is going to send send a notification via mobile app, blah, 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 blah. This will probably say something different if it's your phone. So this is going to send it specifically to the app on my phone. So that's what we want in this case. Okay, and then we can send a message. So we're going to say check the fermenter ice bottles. Oops, misspelled fermenter. This message here can be anything you want. Doesn't really matter. The point is that you're getting a notification on your app. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Yeah, okay. Now let's hit save. And now wants us to put in a name for this. Again, this can be anything that makes sense to you. I'm going to set this to Fermenter Ice Check 2 because I already have a rule for this in my Home Assistant. Okay, and we'll hit save. And that's pretty much it. Now we can hit the back button. So here's our new rule. And this switch is kind of the enable for it. So I usually only enable these rules when I'm fermenting a batch of beer. Otherwise, I mean, they don't make sense. So just remember to enable or disable these based on if you're actually using the fermenter. Let's see. So now we can actually we can test it by hitting the Run Actions button here. So this is, I clicked on the 3 dots here by the rule, and then there's a Run Actions item. So let's click on that. Yep, that was the notification on my phone. So it works. So that is our first rule. That's a nice simple one to get started with. For the next rule, this one's really powerful. This is my favorite one. What it's going to do for us is it's going to do an automatic temperature ramp. So sometimes you want to cold crash your fermenter or your beer at the end of fermentation, but you usually don't want to just suddenly take the temperature down, say 20 degrees or something, because that will actually shock the yeast and that will mean bad things for your beer. So usually what you want to do is ramp the temperature down slowly. But this is kind of a pain in the butt to remember, every 4 hours, go into the Home Assistant app and, knock the temperature down by 1 or 2 degrees. This rule does that for us. So just like before, hit the Create Automation button. And we're going to create a new automation. Okay, we're going to set or add a trigger. We want to do time and location, and then we want to do a time pattern. So that's used to do something periodically, like every so many hours. So the syntax for this is a little bit weird. Basically, we want to go in the hours field. I'm just going to set this up so that it happens every 6 hours. If you want to change that to every 4 hours, every 3 hours, whatever you want to do, just remember this is how you do it. So we'll go into the hours field, and then we're going to type in a slash and then 6. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to trigger this automation every time the number of hours is divisible by 6. So that's a little bit weird, or it's kind of strange to think about, but you can always, as you're typing things, it will update the description here. So notice it says trigger every 6 hours, and I know that's what I want. So I did it correctly. We don't have to fill in values in minutes or seconds because we don't care about that for this rule. For this one, we do want to set an additional condition. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit add condition. And basically when we're ramping the temperature down, I want it to stop when it reaches a certain temperature. So that's what this condition will do. I want to do a device, and we're going to do fermenter 1 again. And for the condition, we're going to select current fermenter temperature. I don't know why it says temperature twice, but that's okay. And then basically we're going to say for the above field, we're going to type in 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, this can be whatever you want. You can set this to 50, doesn't matter. But basically that's going to say that this this automation will only run if the fermenter temperature is above 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so that takes care of the additional condition. I don't have any more conditions I want to set. Okay, so let's add some actions to this rule here. So the first one we're going to do is we are going to basically decrement the set temperature for the fermenter. So just subtract 1. So we're going to click the add action button, and then we're going to go to climate. That's basically what our thermostat shows up as. And then we're going to scroll down until we find set target temperature. You can also type in and try to find it that way. So set target temperature. Okay. And then we're going to set the target for this automation. So we're going to click on choose device, and we're going to find our fermenter. Mine's called Fermenter 1. We'll click on that. And that's just basically setting what device we want to target this climate action thing to. We're also going to check the target temperature, but we're not going to type anything in just yet. Okay, so now we're kind of at the limits of what we can do inside the visual editor, or this kind of UI-based editor, but there's a way that we can do more complex things by directly editing this in YAML. So basically all of these automations under the hood go into a big YAML-based configuration file, kind of like our ESP Home YAML configs. This visual editor here is just kind of a nice UI-based way to do it, to do things to this YAML file. But if we want to do something more advanced that we can't do in the UI editor, we can click on the 3 dots in the upper right corner here, and we can say edit in YAML. And that's going to pull up something, again, that looks like a little piece of our ESP Home files, but a little bit different. And so it's already got some of these things set up. So it's saying that the action is a climate.setTemperature, and then the target is that device ID of the fermenter, which is a big nasty number. We don't need to change anything with that. What we're going to do is we're going to change this data field. Okay, so we're going to delete the curly braces here. Now keep in mind as we're doing this that the kind of snippets that I'm going to type in here are available on the website. Check the description for the video down below. And that's going to show you, basically you can copy and paste from there so that you don't have to type this based on what I'm telling you. Okay, so we're going to hit return and tab to indent this, and we're going to type in temperature because that's what the thing that we want to change. In this case, that's the set temperature for the thermostat. And then we're going to type in this angle brace and a hyphen. That's basically saying the next thing's going to be a multi-line, piece of text. And we're going to hit return. We're going to tab over again, and we're going to put in two open curly braces. That's basically saying that what's inside of here is going to be basically Python code, actually. And we're going to type in state attr and then an open paren, and then we're going to basically tell it what we're doing here is we're trying to retrieve the current value of the thermostat's set temperature. And see, it's auto completing this for me. So I'm basically saying, hey, the device that I want to access here is the fermenter thermostat, and then I'm going to put comma, and the actual data value that I want to retrieve is the temperature, which is basically the same thing we're writing here. Okay, so and then we're going to close parent. So that's basically going to retrieve the current value of the set temperature, and then I'm going to put this pipe, and we're just going to basically put in a number of 60 here. So basically what this is saying is if this if this call that will retrieve the set temperature, if that fails for some reason, we're just going to return a floating point value of 60 degrees here. This should never be hit, but you kind of want to put it in there because otherwise weird errors occur. And then here's the magic part. We're going to say all of that -1. And then we're going to close this with 2 curly braces. So basically what that's saying is get the current set temperature value and then subtract 1 from it. Now, if you want a faster temperature ramp, like 2 degrees every 6 hours or 3 degrees even, or something like that, then you can change this value from 1. I'm just using 1. I like to do a nice gradual temperature ramp. Okay, so that's basically it, okay, for this action. So we're gonna hit the save button, and then I'm gonna collapse this, and we're gonna add one more action. Basically, I want to get a notification every time the temperature ramps down, and I want to see what that temperature actually is. So I want to see that on my phone. So we're going to go back, and just like the last rule, we're going to add a notification item. And then specifically, I'm going to send a notification to the mobile app on my phone. Okay. And then we're going to type at least the first part of our message, which is, let's see, I'm going to just type this in. This can be whatever makes sense to you, but I'm going to say ramping fermenter temp to, and then we're going to fill in that value because this is where we're going to have to get a little bit more advanced. Okay, so that's that. And then again, this is something that we can't really do in the visual editor. Yeah, so we're going to go into edit in YAML. And so we're going to leave this as is, or everything as is, except we're going to change the message. So again, we're going to turn this into a multi-line entry, tab it over 1. Okay, so we're going to keep our value here. I'm going to take the quotes off of it. We're going to say ramping temperature to, and then I'm going to do that open curly brace again. And then we're going to start typing the same exact thing that we did in the last one to access the current set temperature. So we're going to do climate, oops, didn't spell it right, climate dot and fermenter thermostat, and then again we want the temperature attribute, and then we're going to go ahead and subtract 1 from that. Okay, and I think that should do it. And then we're going to hit save here. And we're going to close this. Okay, so now we're going to use kind of some of the debugging features of Home Assistant to try this out, make sure it actually works. So I'm going to click on the, I just want to first test out this, that we can decrement or subtract 1 from the set target temperature. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots here, and up near the top it says run action. So we can basically just run it manually. We don't have to wait 6 hours for it to actually trigger on its own. So we're going to run action, and it says at the bottom, action ran successfully. And then just as another debugging trick, we can look at the traces here. Let's go up to traces, and this is kind of just, is going to show you basically debug values. So this will tell you if there's an error in your automation. It can tell you like a timeline of when certain things happened. It logs every time the automation runs, so you can see like how often it's running. So this trace thing is really useful for debugging these automations. So, but in our case, we can just go back to the dashboard, and what we should see here is, so I know that my set temperature was 63, and after I ran that action, it ran successfully, and in fact, it's decremented the set temperature down to 62. So it's working. So that's great. Okay. So let's go back to our automation. So that basically that's completed for this automation. So it seems to be working so far. We can keep an eye on it and make sure it actually does trigger every 6 hours, although I'm pretty confident it will. And we can make sure this runs by, we can look at the trace logs to check that, or we can just look and make sure that our thermostat temperature is ramping down and that we're getting notifications on our phone and all that sort of thing. Okay, well, that's basically it for this video. Hopefully you've learned a couple of interesting things about doing automation in Home Assistant. I appreciate you watching the video, as always. And if you have any other questions or comments or even ideas for future automations or future videos, post those down in the comments. We'd love to see that. Thank you for watching.